Good morning and welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. It's time for the weekly wrap-up. And I want to welcome everyone from Patreon as well as YouTube. YouTube people, today at high noon, that is 12 Pacific Standard Time, I'll be doing a live broadcast. It'll be anywhere from an hour to 2 hours and probably closer to 2 hours, the way things usually go. And so that'll be on Patreon only. And Patreon, by the way, it's only $2 a month. It gets you videos all week long, the occasional special presentations, as well as live streams where I answer your direct questions, and that's what's going to happen at high noon. Anyways, this week has been a complete and total disaster, but it almost felt like another no-news type of week. But if you look between the lines, if you actually listen and pay attention, instead of following the puff pieces in the news, you'll see that we're in a lot of trouble. So let's start right at the top. A big chunk of news. Are we getting closer to shit hitting the fan? Are we getting further? Is the world becoming a great place where we can all pick daisies and send each other Valentine cards year-round? Or is it going to be that type of place where everyone is going to have to be watching their back? People are hungry, people are broke, people are scared. You know, which one are we heading towards? Well, let's start with New Zealand. Good old Kiwi land, down under. Right? They had a church shooting. They had lots of people killed. It was motivated by what? Hatred. By religious malice. Right? That is not a heartwarming story. And what is the government response? Gun control. We need more gun control down in New Zealand. And I've met some Kiwis. I met one years and years ago. 30 years ago. He's like, you Americans, you don't need all these guns. Well, yeah, you think because you're from New Zealand, you don't need all those guns, because if anyone were to ever do anything to Australia, New Zealand, America would be there in about 5 fucking seconds with all of ours to help you out. And I'm not picking on Kiwis, I love them, right? But anybody who's an advocate for gun control, as far as I'm concerned, is an advocate for socialism and a communist takeover. They're an advocate for tyranny. They're an advocate for despotism of the majority. So that's really what's going on down in New Zealand. It is another political stunt. Is this a conspiracy? The shooting? Was it staged? Is it planned? I don't care anymore. All I know is it happened, and the first response is gun control. How about migrant control? How about religious control? How about law enforcement doing its job and stopping terrorists? Leave the people and their guns alone. Go after the bad guys. All right, next. This week, some amazing political stupidity in the United States of America occurred. Now, as Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States has emergency and war powers that are exclusive to the executive branch. They cannot be voted upon. It's completely asinine. Yet, the Senate, with the help of many Republicans, right? And you can go look at the list for yourself, voted with Democrats to end the President Trump state of emergency that he declared. They voted for that. Since when does the legislative branch get to determine how much power the executive branch wields? There is a process for that. It's called the constitutional amendment process. It's not a vote of what majority is in. So what they didn't have, though, is they had a majority vote, which required some Republicans, but they didn't have a supermajority, which is what is needed to override a veto. As if the Senate is going to pass something, and Trump is going to turn around and go, oh, well, the Senate says there's no emergency, so I guess I'll just sign off on that. No, he is the supreme executive power in the government, not over the people. He's the supreme executive power over the government. And people need to remember that. The government doesn't run the people. You and me, we are supposed to be the ones telling us what to do. and telling the government what to do. And the government is supposed to do our bidding. Someday, hopefully, we'll get the shoe back on the other foot the way it belongs. But for now, things are run amok. We're heading headlong into shit hitting the fan because of ignorance, because of stupidity like this. So in a lot of ways, what the Senate did was they revealed, those rhinos, whose side they are on. Right? Are they on the side of right? Is it right for Mexican nationals to come across the border at will, bringing with them drugs, prostitutes, criminals, meaning gang members? Is that right? Or is it right to stop them? If it's costing us billions and billions of dollars, is it right to allow it to continue, or should we stop it? If they're murdering Americans when they get over here and kidnapping and stealing women and sending back across the border to sell as sex slaves, is that right? To me, it's simple fucking math. Secure the border. How hard is it? Secure the border. That's one of those roles that the people said the government should actually do. Not tell us about gun control, but secure the border. There it is. Anyways, this is the type of government action we're seeing. It is wholly indicative of a government that doesn't understand its constitutional restrictions or responsibilities. And it is also indicative of its willingness to violate rights and constitution. And that leads to shit hitting the fan. That is why you're a prepper. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. That's what you need as a prepper, because the government is out of control. When you have one branch trying to take out another branch, we're engaged in this constant bullshit fight. While in the back of everything, with the dark state, the deep state, what have we got? Fucking coup d'etat going on. You've got the bureaucracy, and you've got a bunch of corporations, yes, corporations, that have their candidates, their people, that they put in positions of power and pay them in order to maintain control for the benefit of those corporations, banks, families, etc. There are at least 3 levels that go on, and most people can't even see past the end of their nose, let alone who's controlling their daily lives. And they don't have a fucking clue how this world is run on a much higher level. Now, moving along, the criminal activity in this country, what we require as human beings, so that we don't have shit hits the fan, so that we don't have a without the rule of law, the end of the world as we know it scenario going on outside, where people just have to take the law into their own hands because there is no law. Criminal behavior. This week, what did we see? People being convicted for bribing college officials to get their kids into college. It would have been a lot cheaper for them, number one, just to pay for a tutor to actually teach their kid and fucking make their kid learn if they want to go to those colleges. Instead, they bribed people. Now, this is huge news. Who gives a fuck? You want some criminal behavior where they should be prosecuting the fuck out of somebody? How about Hillary Clinton? How about James Comey? How about Clapper? How about Brennan? Right? How about the entire Obama administration? How about the other half of the Trump administration? I'm sure there's lots of crooked people in there from the Goldman Sachs gang. How about half of fucking Wall Street? And then send the other half to work camps to pay back all the money they screwed us out of. Jeez. No, instead, let's go after a couple of dumbasses who bribed some college officials to try and get their kids into some Ivy League top-tier schools so they could be like AOC, a retard with a graduate degree. Literally, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She comes off to me as somebody with an IQ that is far below average. Far below average. That means retarded. Yet she has a graduate degree? What is her fucking claim to fame? She was in a beauty contest and she's a bartender? Give me a fucking break. And she's going to tell the rest of us we need a Green New Deal? Are you kidding me? They need to take over the entire economy. redo the Constitution, reorganize the social structure, revamp the legal system. Really? Coming from a fucking bartender? Right? College isn't enough to fix stupid. You can't fix stupid. But what they can do is they can take over the country. And that's what they're trying to do. That's what they're trying to do. We need a criminal justice system. We need justice so that people have confidence in the system. I'm telling you, if I had confidence in the legal system, the political system, the economic and monetary system, if I had confidence in the financial system, I wouldn't be a prepper. But they get a vote of no confidence from me across the fucking board. Why? Because every decision they make is a bad one and leads to worse circumstances. That's why we're preppers. Are we getting closer to shit hitting the fan? You bet. Let's go arrest some parents for being assholes. But never mind the Uranium One deal that Mueller is involved with Comey and Hillary Clinton. Just forget the whole fact that they sold what? Either 1/5 or 1/3 of, or 1/2 of the nation's uranium supplies in a pay-for-play scandal that's not even remotely anywhere near the mainstream news. Incredible. So speaking of the Mueller investigation, right? They want to get President Trump, for collusion. They still have not let it go. And I've heard people say this is the biggest coup d'etat attempt, period. It's the FBI and the CIA, and they're trying to overthrow the President of the United States, trying to get him impeached, thrown out. And I've heard a lot of people say it's the biggest scandal in history, and it's actually not. I want to take you back to the 1930s. The greatest, most decorated veteran in American history, Marine Corps General Smedley Butler. I'm going to give you a little history here. Most dedicated, hardworking, ass-kicking man in military history for the United States. He was approached by a bunch of fascists. This is at the same time that the fascists were taking over Germany. They approached Smedley Butler and offered him a key position in a new regime if he were to lead an army to overthrow the government of the United States. He was prompted by business magnates, by billionaires, back at a time when being a millionaire was nearly impossible to reach. There were millionaires and billionaires that were forming a coup d'etat. They were not only going to take over the government, but they were going to assassinate Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a man who I don't have a lot of love for, but you just don't go around killing presidents because you want to take over a country. I guess, unless you want to take over a country, and then you go around killing everyone you can. Right? Now, this coup with Trump is to throw him out of office. It's terrible. But it's been tried before. And when you look at who tried it last in such a huge way, you could go, okay, look at JFK. He was assassinated. What type of government, really imposed its power? Back in the 30s and the 20s, what type of people were trying to kill and overthrow our government? Kill the president, overthrow the government. Right? Social fascists, socialists. They want to use government power and corporate power, right, to own the land and the people and to enrich themselves. Right? It is here. Right? It is definitely here. There is no doubt. But we've had examples in the past, and we've seen, right? We've seen what they want to do, what they're capable of doing. We saw what German fascism resulted in. Imagine if naked, outright fascism controlled the United States of America. Social fascism, socialism, right? We've got people that are pushing for it now openly, claiming to be socialists, radicals. This country is in deep shit. The system we have, the economic, monetary, financial, the infrastructure, none of it right now is set up to operate in a socialist system. You will see corporations fail. You'll see people go unemployed as they push for this. Talk about shit hitting the fan. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's get out of the United States of America. Let's go over to the European continent. That beautiful place over there. That wait a minute. It's the European Union. The Brexit deal is about as prevalent in the news now as the Trump-China deal, trying to get the tariff thing sorted out. The Brits are again fighting over Brexit. They can't make up their fucking mind. They don't know what the hell they're doing. And the EU is in big, big trouble. They're in a recession. In fact, it's my opinion that our country is in a recession. But usually it takes, 2 quarters of being in a recession before they go, oh yeah, hey, guess what, general public? You're in a recession now. We're already seeing those numbers. In fact, I saw earlier this week a news article where they are planning ahead of time. News people going, you know what? The Q1 results of the economy, meaning the first 3 months of this year, January, February, March, those don't matter. We know they're going to be low, but it's always a slow time of year. They're already making excuses for a massively underperforming nation, economically speaking. The GDP is going to be shit. Economic growth is not going to exist. This is coming, and they're already planning on how to present it on the news as no big deal. We're in big fucking trouble. Big trouble. I mean, just something like Boeing. We've had a few plane crashes. Well, wait a minute. Boeing is a multi-billion-dollar corporation that is scheduled to sell thousands and thousands of planes over the next decade. And if they can't get their shit straight, if for some reason they can't get planes to fly, or at least they get so many that crash that, 1, people stop flying, 2, they don't buy Boeings anymore. Instead, these nations around the world, because Boeing's international, will end up buying what? Airbuses. They'll buy planes somewhere else. Our economy is that fragile. It can just snap just like that. Canceled orders, Boeing goes down. Boeing is like 12% of the Dow Jones Index. Boeing takes a shit, and it did this week, but somehow the stock market still held up. I wonder how that happened. Couldn't be all the manipulation. Anyways, over in the EU, they're doing what? They're in a recession. Our own Federal Reserve Chairman said so, talking about China and the EU. They're having major issues over there. And they're like a cat in a sandbox trying to cover shit from 30 other cats. And it's just slinging sand and throwing shit everywhere, trying to hide it. But what is the EU doing? They're going to start printing. Their version of quantitative easing is going to start again because they're having liquidity issues. They have to go to the printing presses, which is going to do what? It's going to devalue the currency. It's going to make the dollar seem stronger, but the dollar is not in great shape. The dollar, in fact, would be in a lot worse shape if it wasn't for the fact that the rest of the world currency weren't in such bad shape. In other words, we have a worldwide recession coming. Are we getting closer to shit hitting the fan? Yeah, it's a fucking sprint now. It's a sprint. While you've got people on the sidelines and the media and politicians going, there's nothing to see here, nothing to worry about, go about your business, oh, everything's great, give me a fucking break. It is getting to be comically, how do I even put this? It's like a fucking tragedy, right? It is. It's total tragedy because people, unless you're a prepper, you don't know what's coming. You don't have a clue. You don't see it in the politics. You don't see it in the economics. You don't see it in the infrastructure. You don't see it in the social system. Right? The system is not fair. I tell you, I've been getting a ton of reports about what all of these illegals are getting. When they come across the border, they get money, they get medicine, they get handouts, they get freebies, they get homes, while our own people, vets included, are ignored and shit on. It's just incredible how corrupt this system is. All right, I need to move on. Let's move on to precious metals. This week, I have seen the reports and witnessed and heard other experts talking about some of the most egregious precious metal price manipulation ever. They are literally dumping contracts into the market. Now, wouldn't it be great if you were a bank and you wanted to keep prices low? And so there's, let's just say, 1 billion ounces of silver that's being traded on the market. And you had the authority to claim that there's now, let's just make up a number, 1,500,000,000 ounces by throwing paper out there to suppress the price. Same with gold. They're just throwing contracts out there. There's nothing to back those contracts. You shouldn't be able to sell something you don't have. Yet, the banks in control of the precious metals have that authority. And it is naked and it is aggressive. Now, why would they want to do that? Why would they want to suppress the prices of precious metals? Well, they want to, one, make them look undesirable, so that investors don't think there's a problem with the currency or the economy. Because when there's a problem with the currency or the economy, people run to precious metals as a hedge against disaster economically. That's when gold shoots up. That's when silver shoots up. It's huge. So they have the ability to throw paper at it. It's not, when you buy stocks in gold and silver, it's not really gold and silver. You're competing in a casino table where somebody else has the ability to create as many aces as they want. And the second reason, number two, is these banks right now around the world as well as the United States are buying up precious metals hand over fist, including wealthy people and stackers. That is, people who buy what they can. They'll buy 5, they'll buy 20, they'll buy 50 ounces of silver, or they'll buy an ounce of gold every month or every other month. They're buying what they can as well because they see what's coming, right? They're changing the banking rules at the end of March. April 1st, April Fool's Day, gold will be called money again. It'll be considered by the Bank of International Settlements, which is out of Basel, Switzerland, which was, I believe, the Nazi bank, their central bank. Back to the gold part. They are going to call it money. In other words, we have such a monetary crisis coming that they're going to try and tie money back to commodities. Things like gold, silver, oil, maybe wheat. Commodities that have real value, so that you can say the currency has value. It's backed by something. Because right now, our currency is backed by nothing. Our currency has been inflated with quantitative easing, with TARP money, with handouts, with freebies. The printing presses have gone off the shelves, printing electronic money for corporations and banks to give to themselves and buy back their own stocks to artificially keep prices up in the stock market, to make everyone think they're going to retire and be rich. It's all going to come down, And to finish things off, I want to talk about the yield curve. I don't know if you've heard about the yield curve. I don't know if you even know what the yield curve is. But the government, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, 30 year, they'll ask you if you want to buy a bond, a T-bill, treasury bill. They'll say, if you want to buy this, and we'll pay you back, say, 5%. Now, it's way below 5% right now. It's way below that. But they'll say, if you lend us money, we'll pay you back and then some. And so people buy T-bills or bonds in order to secure it as an investment. They want a return on investment, and so they do that. Well, if you're going to buy a 10-year bond, you're going to want more interest than you would if you're going to buy a 3-year bond, because your money is going to be tied up for 10 years, not just 3 years. Well, right now, the 1-month bond pays more than the 3-year bond. So why would anyone buy 3-year bonds? So instead of getting rewarded for tying your money up with the government, you're now being punished. So people are going to buy these short-term T-bills, and they're going to not buy the long-term. This is called a yield curve, or bond yield curve inversion. It's upside down. And the more of these ratios that get mixed up and upside down, the worse off we're going to be. And every time this happens, like it is right now, we're heading into a recession. Time and again for the past 70 years, when the bond yield curve starts inverting, it means we're heading into a depression. Because the government is desperate to get short-term money because of what? Lower tax revenues, lower GDP. They're seeing in the forecast, they know they're not going to get the money, so they need it now. So they start offering higher rates for shorter terms. And so people quit buying the long terms, and then ultimately we go into recession, and it's a shitstorm. It's coming, folks. This week, are we getting closer? Yeah, we're getting closer to shit hitting the fan. So I'm going to cut it off here. Thank you for coming to YouTube. If you're a YouTuber, think about going to Patreon. If you need help with preps, go to the preparedmind.club, where you can get prepper food, prepper items, survival, books, manuals, right? We want to help people find what they need to get prepared. That is our mission, our basic mission statement. That's what we do. You know, if I didn't do this, I would probably be doing something a lot more fun. But I've started this, and it's been very successful. I believe I've helped a lot of people, and I've gotten an awful lot of thank yous. And I want to thank everybody at Patreon for supporting our efforts and making the preparedmind.club a reality. You can also go to the Prepared Mind at Facebook, and you can participate there as well. And if you wish and you want, I already have 1,000,000 questions, according to Jolene, who's the site administrator. We got 1,000,000 questions for today's interview at noon, but if you want, send some more through, because I like to get to those sometimes in the middle of the week. But in order to hear the live interview, you got to be there on Patreon. So hopefully you go there, sign up, and I'll see you at high noon. You guys be cool. Semper Fi. Always faithful. Godspeed to you all. And chance favors the prepared mind is yours. Get prepared now.